Good morning, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Thank you for joining one more time as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. Now, this morning, we are going to talk about Ariel Henry. And Ariel Henry seems to be both the acting president and the acting prime minister of Haiti, something that is quite bizarre, right? That he is functioning in that capacity, in both capacities at the same time. Sometimes the papers report, that's the Western newspapers report that he's acting prime minister, and in some cases I see acting president. So who is this Ariel Henry? And we need to look closely at this, so-called de facto president of Haiti. Now he's the acting president, and both the acting prime minister. It seems that before Jovenel Moise died, that he left him in that position as prime minister. But since the death of Jovenel Moise, that was in 2021, it seems to me that Ariel Henry, it has been alleged that he was in some point responsible or might have participated in the death of the former president of Haiti, that is Jovenel Moise. Now, that's very interesting because if that is true, even if there are just mere allegations that he was involved in the death of the former president, then how could they decide to have him there? Shouldn't he have stepped down until further investigation is done to ensure that he was not at all responsible or involved in the death of the former president, Jovenel Moise? But it seems to me that he is the pro-US candidate and the candidate of the core group that they want to foist onto the Haitian population. And the Haitian population is saying, no, we want to have elections, free and fair elections, so that we can actually elect the person that we want to govern our nation. But the United States seems to be pushing this Ariel Henry. And for that reason, I was asking, who is this guy? Because sometimes we've got to delve into these personalities and see who these people are or who they are not, right? And since I am an inquisitive guy, I sort of delved into his uh, history as a person. Now, Ariel Henry, he was born in 1949. And it says here that he is a neurosurgeon and politician. Ariel Henry was born in Tabare, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, on November 6, 1949, to Eli Saturne Henry, a lawyer and university theology professor from Petit Riviere de la Artibonite, and Elvire Contave Henry, a teacher from Port-au-Prince. Henry has five siblings: Monique Henry and Edlin Henry Richards, and Eli Henry Jr., and Elvira Henry. He's married to Annie Claude Massaw, and they have three sons: Lionel Henry, Isaiah Henry, and Matthew Henry. Now, one of the things as I dug into the information, I realized that Ariel Henry also has connections to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, that his father was a prominent Seventh-day Adventist member, and I think he was affiliated with the Inter-American Division of the Seventh-day Adventist movement. Now, that was something that was interesting to me because I never knew that Henry had any sort of connection to the Seventh-day Adventist movement. In fact, Henry also, whilst he did his medical degree, his medical career in France. I think he got a doctorate, a PhD in the medical sciences, medical profession in France, and he studied public policy. That's what you call that, the public relations at Loma Linda University in California, which is a Seventh-day Adventist university. So let's look a little at his portfolio. Henry earned a doctorate of medicine, a doctor of medicine degree from the Université de Médecine de Montpellier, France in 1983. Upon graduating, he worked as an assistant in neurosurgery in the neurosurgery department of CHU du Guy Juliac, Montpellier from 1983 to 1985. Afterward, he was the administrator of the Adventist Hospital of Haiti until 1987. So he also worked for the Seventh-day Adventist Hospital in Haiti until 1987. In 1989, Henry received a Master of Public Health. That's what I wanted to say. A Master of Public Health degree from Loma Linda University in Loma Linda, California. The following year, in 1990, he did postdoctoral studies in management methods for international health at Boston University. So this is a very well-educated man who has studied quite a bit. He has done quite extensive studies in the field of health. Now, this same year, Henry joined the Faculty of Medicine at the State University of Haiti while also working as a professor of neurosurgery for surgical residents of the Hospital of the State of the University of Haiti until 1995. He continued as a consultant at Pan American Health Organization, that is PAHO, World Health Organization, WHO, until 1996. So this is a very sophisticated man and one who has done quite a bit of extensive studies. Now, look at what this is saying. In 2004, Henry was affiliated with the Council of Sages that supported the rebellion that deposed and exiled the country's president, that's John Bertrand Aristide. So if you remember in 2004, there was a coup and the United States went there and took out the president, took him captive, actually kidnapped the president, that is John Bertrand Aristide, and Henry, that's Ariel Henry, was a part of that oppositional forces or group that sided with the US to get John Bertrand Aristide out of that country. From 2008 to 2011, Henry was Chief of Staff to the Minister of Public Health and Population in Haiti. During that period, he addressed strategies and treated people infected by epidemic of cholera that killed more than 10,000 amid the destructive earthquake of 2010. Excuse me. In 2015, Henry was Minister of the Interior and Territorial Communities. During the beginning of the coronavirus era in 2020, he became a member of the scientific unit for the management of the COVID-19. In addition, in 2018, Henry co-authored Bridging the Gap, creating a self-sustaining neurosurgical residency program in Haiti, published in Neurosurge Focus Volume 45. So Henry has done quite a bit in terms of his medical career. Now, this is a guy that is Ariel Henry, that the Haitians, or who the Haitians do not want to be prime minister. In fact, the leader of the gang, that is Jimmy Cherizier, is suggesting that he should step down immediately. Or if he does not step down, there is going to be a civil war. A civil war cannot be avoided. It seems to me that the United States is sort of vacillating whether or not they should continue with Henry or they should have another person. Sometimes it seems that they want him to transition into becoming the full-fledged president, and sometimes it seems that they want him to demit office, to resign. However, it seems like even though other leaders in the world, such as some CARICOM leaders, have suggested to Henry that he resign, it seems to me that he is not bent on resigning, even though he's 74 years old, right? So he's no young chicken, but he decides that he wants to be the president, the de facto president of Haiti. I have learned based on my reading that Ariel Henry went to the CARICOM meetings that were held in Guyana. That's where the heads of the Caribbean regions the prime ministers rather, of these nations met at their probably annually held CARICOM meeting. Now, it was after this meeting that he went to Kenya, where he was in negotiation with the Kenyan government to send the special forces to Haiti. Now, it seems to me that there is some delay in the dispatch of those soldiers and the deployment of those Kenyan soldiers because the Kenyan High Court, their Supreme Court, decides that it is illegal to send those soldiers. And why is it illegal? Based on what I've read, the Kenyan authorities, that the legal scholars, the Kenyan legal scholars are suggesting that in order to have or to send a deployment of soldiers to Haiti, they would have to do it under the leadership of a legitimate Haitian president. And right now, we do not have a legitimate Haitian president because they have not yet held any elections, any legitimate elections. In fact, Haiti has not had any elections since 2019, my understanding. Now, the legal scholars in Kenya are also suggesting that there needs to be a bipartisan effort for that agreement to be ratified. Now, it's not clear whether or not, even though the high courts in Kenya has decided that the deployment of soldiers, of Kenyan soldiers to Haiti is illegal, it is not sure whether or not the soldiers will be going. Because it seems, based on what I'm hearing, Dan Cohen from the Mint Press News, and he was also on Redacted on the program Redacted this morning, and he claimed, that's Dan Cohen, a journalist, a US journalist, who has been doing a lot of reports on Haiti. In fact, he just came back. He just returned from Haiti. He went to Haiti, but he's now back in the United States, but he recently traveled there. And he has a keen eye on what is happening in that island. However, he suggested that's Dan Cohen, that is, he suggested that the Haitian, I think I sort of lost my train of thought. Dan Cohen is suggesting that the Haitian gang leaders are suggesting, well, that is the leaders that, because the Haitian gangs have united. For some strange reason, they've always been divided, and they are now united against any sort of US intervention or any sort of foreign intervention, should I say. So whether it be US intervention or Kenyan soldiers or Jamaican soldiers or Barbadian soldiers, they are determined that they do not want any foreign intervention in Haiti. They are suggesting that the problems must be dealt with internally and not externally. And you might ask the question, why? But, Haiti has been, the victim of many invasions, many US invasions, and things have never improved after US invasion or UN intervention. Things have always gotten worse. So the people are skeptical of another US intervention, even though US soldiers would not be directly involved, but they would be sending troops, Kenyan troops, among other troops coming from Jamaica, Barbados, Bahamas, and some other countries that are listed, who are helping the United States to bring some form of order back to Haiti. The fact of the matter, yes, Dan Cohen suggested that the United States has bribed the Kenyan soldiers by paying, or the Kenyan government officials by paying millions of dollars so that they would deploy the soldiers to Haiti. What is also very sad, according to Dan Cohen, is that the soldiers, the Kenyan soldiers, which will be sent if they get the permission of the government and the high courts, the Kenyan High Court, these soldiers are known to be death squads. They're brutal, and they could inflict a lot of harm on the Haitian population, because you know that death squads, that's what they do, they kill. And that is something that we need to pay attention, close attention to. What is very interesting to me in this sort of debacle is that the president left for Guyana, then he went to Kenya to sort of ink out the agreement for the deployment of the Kenyan soldiers to Haiti. And then he wanted to return to his country, that's Haiti, to continue his position, right? The leadership of the country, because he's the acting president and acting prime minister at the same time, which I find to be very, very bizarre. But that is what it is, and we have to accept the reality. Now, it seems to me that, you know, the information might have leaked out to the gangs in Haiti, to Cherizier, and they decided that they were going to take over the major ports and the major airports, and he was blocked from returning to Haiti. Now, it seemed like at the last minute, they wanted to have him divert to Santo Domingo to come to the Dominican Republic, right? That he would have landed in this country, in Santo Domingo. But at the last minute, I understand, whilst he was in the air, the Dominican authorities informed him that he was not allowed to land here. So he had to divert to Puerto Rico. And it's alleged that he might be in Puerto Rico. Some people are suggesting that he might be in Jamaica. But the Jamaican Foreign Minister, Kamina Johnson, has, debunked any sort of, fact. She has debunked that opinion, that assertion that he is actually, or that allegation, I should say, that he is in Jamaica. She says that he is not there, and she can state that definitively, that he is not in Jamaica at this point in time. She doesn't know what the future might bring, but at this moment, she's suggesting that he is not in Jamaica. Nobody knows where Ariel Henry is at the moment. Is he in Puerto Rico still? Has he crossed over to the United States? Is he in Jamaica? We are not sure what is happening. Now, one of the things that we need to understand is that if the United States wants Haiti to transition into a democracy, into a full-fledged democracy, into a democratic nation state, why isn't it that the United States is allowing or foisting a man upon the people that the majority of the citizens don't want? I think that the United States should respect the people's choice and allow them to elect the person who they think represent them and their interests. That's the populace interest. But it seems to me that the United States is continuing to say that Ariel Henry is their candidate. Now, we hope that the situation does not really morph into a situation that we saw that took place, that happened to Jovenel Moise, because remember now that there seems to be some parallel here. The people did not want Jovenel Moise. They did not see him as their legitimate president. Also, they thought that he was corrupt rather, and thought that he should have demitted office long before he was murdered. And we saw that he was so stubborn that, eventually he received his untimely death. I hope that this does not happen to Ariel Henry, because I understand that there have been recommendations and suggestions that he demit office, but he is quite obstinate, and he thinks that he should not demit office at this moment. So let us see what happens. We can only pray that something unfortunate does not happen to Ariel Henry, because the people are upset that he is still, vying for the presidency. They want to see him demit office. Now, Jimmy Cherizier, who is the leader of the G9 and the allied group, he's suggesting that, according to the BBC report here, let me see if I can pull up the BBC report. I had it here. Um, Give me a second if I could pull that up. Yeah, the BBC here. Let me share my screen with you and let us look at what Cherizier is suggesting here, what assertions he is making. He says, Haiti, well, the article is saying here, and this is coming from the BBC News, it's coming from today, Haiti gang leader threatens civil war if PM does not resign. So they want Ariel Henry to resign because they do not think that he represents Haitian interest, right? He represents the interests of the elites, right? And both the Haitian elites and the American elites, but not the interest of the ordinary Haitian. Now, the gang leader behind the violence, lighting the Haitian capital, has warned there will be a civil war if Haiti's Prime Minister Ariel Henry does not step down. Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier made the threat as members of his gang tried to seize the capital's airport to stop Mr. Henry from returning from abroad. So they have blocked the airports and they are bent. They are determined that they would not have him return to Haiti. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, said the situation was beyond untenable. Thousands of Haitians have had to flee. Now, one of the things I don't like about the UN, the United Nations, they know that the situation was untenable from day one. From day one, Haitians have been saying that they do not want Henri to be their president, to be their prime minister. And that was the time that they should have looked into that. Another thing, if there are allegations that he might have been involved in the death of Moise, Jovenel Moise, which was the former president that was murdered, why would you have somebody heading a nation who might have been involved in some such a gruesome act of terrorism, right? Because the way in which the president was assassinated was horrendous, horrible, horrific, was a horrific and gruesome deed. And the fact that it happened in the sanctity of his bedroom shows you that that was something that this is perhaps, if he's involved, because we don't know, these are allegations, but if the allegations are true, then you cannot trust Henri. And it is sad that for somebody who is a neurosurgeon and who has done so many different studies and in different aspects of health, that he would have done something or would be involved in a gruesome act like this. And shouldn't he be intelligent enough? And if somebody doesn't want you, that you just kindly step down. That's what life is about. Sometimes people don't want us to be their friends. They don't want us to be their leaders, and we've got to listen to them. Sometimes just back down and say that enough is enough. He has done a lot for his career or in his career. So I don't think that he needs to be the head of this country. And I've always wondered why these people want these positions. It must be stressful. He's 74 years old and has achieved so much. Why would you want now to end your career in such a manner? Because it doesn't seem like this is going to end very well. And what he needs to understand is that the United States doesn't have any allies. The United States has interests. So the United States is using him at this moment, and we don't know when they will eventually spit him out. Now, aid groups say that about 15,000 people, among them many young children, have been dispatched from their homes in recent weeks. So Mr. Turk said that since the beginning of the year, a staggering 1,193 people have been killed and 692 others injured by gang violence. This is a lot because we're just 3 months into the year, well, 2 months and some days into the year. So it means, therefore, that this is horrific and something has to be done immediately. He urged the international community to act swiftly and decisively to prevent Haiti's further descent into chaos. It's already chaotic there. But as I said to you, a lot of times, chaos is how they, chaos is advantageous to them because that is how they are able to implement their agenda. So for us, it's not good. because it is causing the deaths and the injury and the suffering of hundreds of thousands of people. But at the same time, the US and other forces might also be achieving their objective. The United States has called on Mr. Henry to expedite the transition, and I don't understand what do they mean by expediting. The fact of the matter is if the people do not want him, then they should request that he demit office or allow the elections to be had, a free and fair elections to be had, so that the people can decide who they want, and eventually, perhaps, Henry will be voted out. The U.S. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller urged a transition to prepare for a multinational security support mission and to pave the way for free and fair elections. He said that the US wanted Mr. Henry to make concessions in the interest of the Haitian people, but added that Washington was not pushing for him to resign. So sometimes it seems like they're trying to make concession, but they are bent that he will not resign, even though the people have stated unequivocally that they do not want to have Henry as their leader. But the United States is foisting this person upon the nation and still say that they're there to secure democracy, right, in that country. You tell me if this is democracy, if this is what the people don't want, the majority of the people don't want him. And when you see the gangs are coming together, gangs that have been formerly divisive, they were never together, they were always divided, but now they have united against the forces that are the foreign forces, the external forces that are about to invade their country. Mr. Henry's whereabouts had been unknown for days until late on Tuesday when he boarded a charter flight to New Jersey. There was a quotation, I'm not sure where I read it, in which the United States, it's right here. Haitian media report that Mr. Henry or Mr. Henry is now seeking alternative routes back into the country while diplomatic pressure appears to be mounting on him to agree to a transitional government, right? Now, this is something very, very interesting. But the United States is on record of saying also that there is no alternative, right? There's no alternative than to have the the Kenyan soldiers go there. Now, that's interesting that the US could be saying that there is no other alternative, but to have the invasion of Kenyan forces and those other forces coming from Jamaica and Barbados and among other CARICOM nations. Now, the Haitian people are on record saying that they do not want any foreigners, including countries from the Caribbean. Well, it doesn't seem like they want the Caribbean islands because they're aware that the CARICOM is on board with doing the interest, right, of the diktats of the United States government. Now, that's something very, very interesting. So violence is what is happening in Haiti at the moment. We see cadavers in the streets. We hear direct accounts of the atrocities that women and many children have been exposed to. So they don't care, even though you have hundreds of thousands of people being maimed, being abused, being exploited, being raped, right? And also being killed, being murdered. And we've got to be aware of that. The vacuum created by the lack of elected officials has been filled by gangs who are estimated to control around 80% of the capital. They're saying formerly they controlled 60%, but since you know the outbreak of violence recently, the gangs now control 80% of the capital city that's Port-au-Prince, something that we should be paying close attention to. Now, it's interesting because we're living in some very, very dark times. And these times are times where we have to look what's going on. And I said to somebody today that it doesn't seem as if we can trust our governments and that they take you know, with some amount of what should I say now? our leaders tend not to take their jobs seriously, in which they're tasked or tasked with, I should say, the responsibility of protecting us in terms of, defending us and making sure that, our property and we also have liberty and just to be able to live decently in our countries. Now, this is something that I found interesting because it's coming from Caribbean Life, and it did write up. It's a very beautiful write up, and they have, really contextualized in this article what is happening in terms of the history and how the history impacts the present in terms of what's happening on the ground in Haiti. Now, it says here, what's the title of the article? It says, they mess it up. Biden's backing for Haiti's unpopular leader digs U.S. into deeper policy hole. So the United States is continuing to insist that it wants Ariel Henry as the president of Haiti. When Haitian president or prime minister, rather, Ariel Henry, filled the void left by the assassination of the country's president in 2021, he did so over the protest of wide segments of the population, but with the full-throated support of the Biden administration. Right? So even though we had where people talked about Trump and Trump said that this country is a S-hole country, now Biden is treating the country just like what Trump is saying. Because if this country was respected by the Democratic Party, they would be listening to the people. Right? And then we said that Trump was racist because he said what he said about Haiti, but that's the same way that the Democrats are treating this country that is deemed to be the poorest in the Western Hemisphere. Right? So both parties are not treating Haiti, that's the Democratic Party, and the Republicans do not treat Haiti with any respect at all. So it doesn't matter if one says something because he says it because, he's not going to be diplomatic with his words. But if you're doing it, then it's the same thing and worse. Now, almost 3 years later, Henry's grip on power is hanging by a thread, and Washington is confronted by even worse choices as it scrambles to prevent the country's descent into anarchy, which I think that it is already anarchy, because if you have no president, the president is not allowed to come back, to return to his country to lead. It means, therefore, that it is anarchy at best. There's no other way to describe it. They mess it up deeply. James Foley, a retired career diplomat and former U.S. ambassador to Haiti, said in an interview about the Biden administration's support for Henry. They rode this horse to their doom. It's the fruit of the choices we made. The United States is creating this problem in Haiti. That's what he's suggesting here. Many people think that this problem is happening magically, and it's just that the Haitians are always chaotic people, but it's not so. The US and other groups, other foreign groups, are contributing significantly to the chaos that is on the ground. Now, the article continues to suggest here the embattled prime minister left Haiti 2 days ago, 10 days ago, I beg your pardon, and has since crisscrossed the world from South America to Africa to New York and now Puerto Rico, I'm sorry, all while staying silent as he tries to negotiate a return home that seems increasingly unlikely. So he might not be able to return home. Now, listen, the power vacuum has been exacerbated by the almost complete withdrawal of police from key state institutions and a mass escape of hundreds of murderers, kidnappers, and other violent offenders from the country's 2 biggest prisons over the weekend. That's very dangerous. The people's lives are in great peril. Haiti remained paralyzed Thursday after another night of attacks on police stations and other targets by armed forces or armed groups that have vowed to force Henry's resignation. The country's acting prime minister, filling in for Henry while he's abroad, extended a poorly enforced nighttime curfew through Sunday. It has to be poorly enforced because they don't have proper security there. Right? Proper security personnel or adequate security personnel are not present at the moment in Haiti. The gangs are running the show. So we understand that while Henry was in Guyana last week for a meeting of Caribbean leaders, he delayed what would be Haiti's first vote in a decade yet again until mid 2025. So Henry is suggesting at the CARICOM meetings that he wants to have elections in 2025, but that's too long because the people are very, very tired and they want to have their elections and to move on with business, with the business of the nation. And that is something that any intelligent people would want to achieve. But it seems to me that chaos is what the leaders there want to maintain or want to achieve. Now, he's been a magician in terms of his incompetence and inaction, said Kleska. And despite it all, the US has stayed with him. They've been his biggest enabler, right? That is something that is bad. The United States is supporting confusion, is supporting chaos through their support of Ariel Henry. Last year, more than 8,400 people were reported killed, injured, or kidnapped, more than double the number reported in 2022. The United Nations estimates that nearly half of Haiti's 11 million people need humanitarian assistance. It's interesting that the United Nations always have these numbers and, and they make all of these, reports, and then what do? They just simply stand and look while the people suffer and they die. They do not care. But even as Haiti has plunged deeper into chaos, the US has stood firmly by Henry. Wow, that's something that is very. But the Biden administration isn't the only US administration that failed to get Haiti right. And I'm sure this is so true. The country has been on a downward spiral for decades as rampant poverty, corruption, lawlessness, and natural disasters overwhelm any effort to rebuild the economy and democratic institutions. Factionalism among political elites, some with ties to the flourishing criminal underworld, has also taken its toll, making it especially hard for the US to find partners it can trust. Well, do they want partners whom they can trust? Do the people even trust the US and the leaders there? I don't think the people trust any officials in the United States. Now, Nichols said he and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken spoke with Henry on Thursday and urged him to broaden his political coalition. How is he going to broaden his political coalition when people do not want him to be the prime minister? They want him to step down. Is it that they can't understand the expression step down? They want him to get himself out of office. He needs to go. And that is what the people are saying, that Henry needs to go. They do not want to see him in the Haitian parliament. He said that the US would work to speed up the deployment of a multinational security mission to combat the gangs led by Haiti under the auspices of the United Nations, but that other countries needed to step up their support in the way the world is working together to address humanitarian needs in Ukraine and Gaza. But what is happening in the Ukraine and Gaza, is disastrous. So I am not sure that that would be the standard, right? I don't think that that should be the exemplar of what should be done in Haiti, because what has happened or what is taking place in the Ukraine and the Gaza area, okay, is disastrous. We've got to do more. We've got to do more urgently, Nichols said at an event hosted by the Council of the Americas in Washington, D.C. The crisis in Haiti has the humanitarian proportions that demand a global response. I think that some people are already suggesting, including members of CARICOM, that Henry resign. So the United States needs to listen to what they are saying, right? The US bears much of the blame for the country's ills. After French colonizers were violently banished in 1791, The US worked to isolate the country diplomatically and strangle it economically. And we have talked about this fact, this historical fact on this channel, because we need to understand that. No, this is not a true in terms of that the French were banished in 1791. The Haitian Revolution started in 1791, but they were banished round about the latter part of that year, of that decade, I mean. American lenders feared a newly independent and free Haiti would inspire slave revolts back home. So the United States did not want Haiti to be free, right? They don't want them to end slavery, don't want the emancipation of the Haitian slaves, because they knew that that would have interfered with slavery on US soil. The US did not even officially recognize Haiti until 1862, during the Civil War that abolished American slavery, right? And that was interesting in terms of why they recognized Haiti at that time. It was very, very interesting. I think the reason why they did it was the fact that they did not want Haitians, because I think that the Haitians were planning to help the African Americans in terms of getting their liberty. So to sort of appease them, the US sort of, you know, decided that they would recognize them, you know, to appease them from not being so rebellious against them because of what, you know, of the embargo that they had placed on Haiti for years. So this was a strategic move. It was not necessarily because the United States wanted to recognized Haiti in 1862, but because it did not want it to be the so-called rebellious, um, uh, you know, nation state that would eventually pose a threat to the institution of slavery in the United States, because 1862 was the year before the slaves were actually emancipated. Meanwhile, US troops have been on and off presence on the island. They've been on and off, means that they have always been going, you know, you have, because, you know, we have, for example, the first invasion in 1915, which lasted for a decade or so. No, it was for 19 years, I think, from 1915 to 1934. So it was 19 years, almost 2 decades of intervention in that country. That's, you know, U.S. invasion from 1915 to 1934. And then you had another one in 1991 when, you know, Bill Clinton said, was it Bill Clinton or Bush sent his troops to Haiti? 1993, I believe. And then you had the 2004 coup that happened when Jean-Bertrand Aristide was kidnapped and was sent to, he went to Jamaica, after which he was exiled in Central Africa. Now, so we have, meanwhile, US troops have been on and off presence on the island, dating from the era of the gunboat diplomacy in the early 20th century, when President Woodrow Wilson sent an expeditionary force that would occupy the country for 2 decades to collect unpaid debts to foreign powers. You really wonder what is the purpose of another US intervention. Why does the US want to invade Haiti another time? What is the purpose of this occupation? Because, you know, for each occupation, it had its reason. Why at this time do they want to occupy them? And what do they want? Now, this is something that we have to ask ourselves, you know? The last intervention took place in 2004 when the administration of George W. Bush diverted resources from the war on terrorism in Afghanistan and Iraq to calm the streets following a coup that removed President Jean-Bertrand Aristide, right? Foley said he sees many parallels between the Aristide crisis he had navigated as the ambassador and the one confronting the Biden administration. Then, as now, Haitian political leaders have proven incapable of consensus and state authority has collapsed, even if the magnitude of the security and economic free fall is far deeper. Re-engineering democracy will take years of painstaking work. I don't think that that is going to be possible at this point of their history. Politically, any such move just months from the US presidential election would be seized on by Biden's likely opponent, Donald J. Trump, as another example of future nation building by the United States of America. Now, I completely understand the deep reluctance in Washington to have US forces on the ground, Farley said, but it may prove impossible to prevent a criminal takeover of the state unless a small US security contingent is sent on a temporary basis to create the conditions for international forces to take over. And that is what happened in 1915. So there is a parallel between what happened in 1915 and what is happening right now. They always create the chaos. That's the US, creates the chaos, and then they form a solution. And then that there is no real solution, it's solution in the interest of the reigning empire, which is the United States of America, and other interests that are also there, because we talk about the core group also. So the fact of the matter is that the United States need to come to an agreement that they will honor the people's request of seeing the back of Ariel Henry. So the US, so we have here, the US for too long has been too present, too meddling, said Klesko. It's time for them to step back. It's time for the United States to step back and understand that the Haitians are responsible enough to run and to manage their country. They do not need the paternalistic endeavors of the United States to oversee their elections and to run the show for them. I think they're tired of it, and right now they are willing to fight, and they seem to be willing to fight to death. Something is not right, and I think we need to pray for the Haitian people. We need to pray for security in the Caribbean region and security also in the United States of America, because this is going to be a bloodbath. If the United States does not concede, this is going to be a bloodbath, and there will be lots of deaths on the streets. And I think that the insecurity will spill over into neighboring Caribbean countries and the United States as a whole. So we've got to, write your local governments and let them know that, particularly those in the United States, and let them know that you are not in agreement with another US intervention, and that they need to honor the request of the Haitian people to have their self-determination and to be able to elect freely their own officials, their own president and prime minister, so that these people will be able to move the country along so that the people can have their needs met. Right now, we have a lot of starvation, people are suffering, and there is nothing to help. Right now, I think I read just today that the two major ports have been closed down. So how do they get their water and other things that they need, food, And we know that we cannot survive with water and without food. So let's continue to pray and ask God that He will give our leaders in the United States, in CARICOM, the wisdom that they need so that they will be able to respect the wishes and the desires of the Haitian people. Thank you so much for joining. I look forward to seeing you in another video.